right, here we are, another episode of Journey with Michael and Ryan. Thank you very much for stopping by and joining us. It's good to have you all here.
Yeah, it is good. It's good to be back, as always. As always, it's good to be back, brother.
It is good to be back. We're in a little unique instance today. Obviously, always the show goes on, regardless of what we've got going on in our lives. We're busy peeps. I'm away on a bit of business, and yet here we are. That's why we're doing it over Zoom. So we ensure that the episodes get done each week.
Continue to practice is the secret to success, baby.
Oh yeah, that's it. The consistency of continually showing up. Doesn't matter the circumstance.
So what are we going to be talking about today, Mr. Michael?
Well, today we're going to be talking about all the fun things. I guess it runs from a few other themes of other podcasts that we've spoken about earlier in the seasons. Today we're going to talk about masks. We're going to talk about armor. We're going to talk about invisible armor. And if you're wondering what the heck we're talking about, we'll continue to listen because we will talk about it all, folks, in here today. I guess I'll kick it off from the first time I really understood about what invisible armor was actually in our rebirthing course. And I think probably about 6 or 7 months in, and we got asked to stand in front of the class. And by this point, we'd all, know each other pretty well. And our teachers, Pauline and David, well, they got us to stand up, and each of the students had to basically rip you to shreds of things that they know about you that you aren't facing. And you basically had to stand there and thank them, even whilst you're feeling the reaction. And then from that, obviously, someone was recording what the answers were. And then there was like a general theme about what was the invisible armor that actually you held on to. And it's an identity of you that you don't see that actually does the work with you as well. And so that's really the first time I thought, geez, that's a complexity of the human that I didn't really know about. I was like, the armor that does work. I was like, what? And yeah, from there it's kind of just been a little bit more of a deeper diving into the learnings and things like that throughout the years since then. And but that was I reckon that was the first shot. I reckon
That was the first time you learned about armor, or just started to understand the concept of what it is?
I think the understanding of the concept of what it was, really, it was, and especially the invisible part, because I thought, obviously we were quite deep into the rebirthing, and I'd started to kind of go into my ayahuasca plant medicine journey then as well. And, you're having living deaths, and you're going through various stages of releasing trauma and programs and things like that. But the concept of invisible armor, well, that was something that was new.
Well, I suppose the interesting thing with that process, I don't remember the whole thing, but I can remember that the feeling that it created inside of me. And the thing about it that was different in that process was because you were intentionally allowing people to offend you and hurt you and bring up things, or even use things against you through conversations you'd had throughout the 9 months program, to really just let that invisible armor come through. There's a lot of armor that we can have that we're conscious of, and we're only conscious of it because the things that brings it out is something we experience often. And it's not often we experience direct hate or people trying to offend us. It's always passive aggressive or a roundabout way, or hearing a conversation through someone else, or even your own projections on a situation or something that someone may say. But the power in that situation was, one, the trust that we had in the facilitators to guide us through it, two, the trust that we had in the other people in the room. And I guess lastly, just our own want and desire to want to know what's behind or hidden, or as you say, invisible, right? What is it that's protecting us what mechanisms within us are protecting us that we are yet to discover. And it sort of came up in throughout that process, right? Like people are saying these things, you really feel the hurt of specific ones. Certain things you'd obviously work through, but there was a few things that I remember that just really, really cut me to my core. So it was a challenging process, but essentially a beautiful process, because it's like all change starts through awareness, right? And if we don't have the awareness of what's going on, or the armor that is invisible, it's like, how can we truly allow ourselves to take it off? How can we take off something that we cannot see, right?
Yeah, and the armor that does the work. I mean, there's an interesting frame of reference there. You can certainly probably add in like the spiritual bypassing aspect and things like that of certainly facilitators or people or an identification through that, with the love and lightness and all that. It's this invisible armor. It can, as I say, just appear out of nowhere, but it takes the depths of willingness to go in to be like, what is that? And bring it out. And that's where you could get, depths of grief can bring things out, can bring out your armors, heart change, heartbreak, death, certain changes of your own health in your life. These are the lessons, these are the gifts that the universe will bring up to us for us to be able to look deeper into ourselves, to go, that's something that's been playing out for my life. Do I want to carry that on? And this is where the biggest shifts in ourselves can be done, usually are done from the deepest realms of the experience of what we're going through something.
Definitely.
And so standing in front of people going, give it to me, that's a deep willingness for you to be, people to intentionally offend you. And then you're allowing yourself the offense, but it's what is the thing that's what's offending you, and then you got to look at that. It's a twisted concept, but it was truly great. It was really, really good.
And as I said, it's all about trust, right? Like, we're not saying to go on and just start offending people to trigger them so that they've got situations or things to work on. This is a container that we were in with people for 6 months to intentionally go into this work, to become facilitators so that we know and understand ourselves, so that we can support other people in understanding themselves. And it's even just, it's not even something that realistically, or understanding the armors or understanding your invisible armor, it's not like a process you even realistically have to go through with others, or it may be something that you can do with a group of close friends, or even your partner, right? But even just allowing yourself to do it with yourself, looking yourself in the eyes and just allowing yourself to be honest with yourself about the contractions that you have within your life. What are you not allowing yourself to do based on fear or judgment or the perception of what other people may think or say?
Yeah.
And really allowing yourself to just check in and be honest, and like just take stock of the thoughts, the self-criticism, the imposter syndrome that's going on inside us, and trying to see where it comes from.
Yeah, the imposter syndrome's a bit of a buzzword going on at the moment, isn't it? But I remember having and I still, to this point, I think everyone always is going to have with it, as you're stepping into higher realms and higher levels. You're always going to be in the unknown. Your ego self's going to want to go, no, you can't do that. It's too much. Like, stay where it's comfortable. I think that's probably what more imposter syndrome is. It's just the fear, masquerading as a concept, potentially, that we need to create, to go, well, I'm not good enough at any of this. Well, you're not good enough at anything when you first start it. Just move through it. There's a great quote by a Stoic philosopher called Seneca, and I'm going to mince it up a little bit, but in the paraphrasing of it, basically he says, in order to be great, you need to be deemed first foolish. And basically it's moving through anything that you're starting to learn, you will be looked upon as foolish, because that is the process that you have to go through to get mastery with something. And if you start telling yourself, I'm an imposter with all of this. I'm not as good. There's the comparisons coming in. We live in a very comparative world right now with such instant gratifications on, say, social medias and things like that. So, I mean, it's probably the most simplest time humans have ever lived, but one of the most complex, I think, as well.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for me personally, I feel imposter syndrome goes a little deeper than the way in which you explained it. Just because of my own experiences with it. For me, I don't feel like it's just a lack of confidence or an inability to trust yourself. It's more around the situations that have happened to me or others. Speak for myself personally. The situations that had happened to me in the past that didn't allow me to do the things that I wanted to do. So it's like there's the bias there of understanding, yes, like new levels, new devils, the more you push yourself up, but it's like actually not allowing yourself to do something because of what's happened to you in the past, not thinking or feeling good enough, not feeling wanted, not feeling accepted. Like all of those past experiences, for me, what made me feel like an imposter. Because who am I to even deserve any of this? It's not about, oh, I can't. It's about, no, I don't.
Yeah, okay, that's very well put. Yeah, and you can take the same things into relationships and things like that as well. Falling out of your power and putting someone on a pedestal potentially as well, right? That's there's an imposter in that. Oh, okay, now you're falling out of. You're moving into the more. I'm going to go out of my way to people please this person because of my own insecurities of my imposterness in whatever situation I'm in. I'm just referring to a relationship right now, but you could do that same thing with a job, co-workers, bosses, parents, friends, any new activity you're starting in, then you're never going to obviously be able to grow through. So yeah, I fully can embrace exactly that, what you've just said. And I think most people can. I don't think we talk about concepts. I mean, we might talk about them in a deeper, more open way than people might have heard. Who knows? I mean, but I don't think the concepts we talk about on here are very unique at all, because I think most people in some shape or form absolutely, feel or have felt or continue to feel or be in the sense of whatever it is that we're talking about. Geez, I mean, if you want to just put it, the label as imposter syndrome, I guess, I would feel like it every day, just moving through what we're creating and doing, because it's never been done before. And it's just, and I think with my human design as a manifestor, I'm out there just doing things and initiating things that have never been done before. And it's just, you've just got to have, I think it's the entrepreneurial kind of concept as well. It's just when you're jumping off a cliff and continually jumping off cliffs and building the planes on your way down, you're always going to think you're going to land at the bottom and crash out. But like it's just, and then it comes back to the trust in the divinity of you will be caught, and whatever that catchment looks like isn't necessarily going to be what it is that your mind is conceiving that is how you will be caught. And so then you can start plucking all these different kind of threads that we've kind of all gone over, and then you've got this concept of the human, and it's just in all its beautiful complexity, which is, why this industry, this, podcast industry, the wellness industry, the self-help industry, it's just such a huge gnosis on everything, because there's so many things and levers you can pull.
Oh, for sure, man. And it's like perception, right? Everyone has a different perception and a different bias based on their own past experiences, who they are, the way in which they grow up, the message that they want to convey, the way in which they want others to perceive them, the way in which they perceive themselves. It's like, it's all a big mess, realistically.
And if you think Ryan and I actually have it all worked out, I'll tell you what, we don't. We're just like everyone else. We just we're just constantly in the moment, working through it, and then the new level comes, and you think, God, all right, isn't
Yeah, definitely. And it's like it's like constantly understanding that, right? Like, no way or anything or even close to perfect, or neither do we even try to be, right? Or even like think we know it all. We're merely just making it up as we go, and guiding ourselves and trusting our own intuition based on our own past experiences and the guidance that we've had in the past, right? And sort of honoring that and honoring ourselves and honoring that we will get it wrong. Honoring that we still do have masks that we wear and armors that are known or unknown, and we're still trying to work through them. You know, I think the difference is you finally get to a point where personal development isn't self-deprecation. You know, it's about finding the things that are wrong with you once you've moved through enough things where you can land in a place of you being like, you know what, I'm actually acceptable as I am, even with all the shit that's happened to me and things that are still happening to me. And secondly, just understanding that the work's never done. And there will always be levels and journeys and layers and rests and periods of advancement and periods when you go slow. It's like we're constantly going to be cycling between rigidity and chaos. Like it's a guarantee, right? And it's like whether or not we get stuck in a point, or whether or not we allow ourselves to continually move through, and that pace will always change, right?
We're always going to be wearing masks. I think that's something that's dropped into me right now. I'm like, we're always going to be wearing masks. It's the acceptance of the masks that you want to wear, I think, because you're never not going to be wearing a mask. Everything's going to, especially if you're constantly pushing your edges into new situations, there's going to be a mask there. There's going to be, you're never going to be, okay, and I'm just going to just speak openly. I'm not going to lay it out, but I guess you're never going to be fully 100% authentic yourself walking into a new situation with new people. You're always going to have some barrier. And that makes sense, right? Because you don't know these people. You don't know the situation. You're not going to go all in because you've got to hold some things back for yourself because you're still, we're still the caveman sitting around a fire and looking into the darkness and waiting and hearing for the snarling growls, right? I mean, we're all just kind of doing that constantly, and so there's going to be some sense of protection of going, okay, all right, that's cool. I know myself very well, so I can still hold myself, but there's still going to be little bits, right? There's still going to be little masks going, okay, there's still going to hold some trust back because there still needs to be a little bit of something to give. And then once that can start being unlocked, then it's just like boom, boom, boom. So I guess with masks, yeah, we're always going to be wearing them. It's just how see-through can they be whilst wearing them?
Sure, and it's about like understanding the situation, the people, roles, situations, and even like understanding what other people may need from you as well, right? Because sometimes when we can be our authentic self, it can be confronting for people, right?
Yes, it can. No, it can. We were sitting in Rape a few days ago, and I had a beautiful drop-in, and it was just about I was having quite a bit of a down day. It was a couple of days there, and sitting in my therapy session earlier that day as well. And I was just talking about the concepts of just really highs and really lows and moving through and with the highs, going lows. And I was talking about how I want to just get better at not having such highs and such lows that come with it. And I'm not saying I'm on the floor, in a depressive state, but just I'm wanting to kind of get a little bit more of a what would you say, an easier roller coaster, I guess, within my life. But then you and I were talking and going through it and sitting with it, and the thing that dropped into me was what I've always been kind of chasing to kill is ipso facto a part of myself that I haven't realized that I haven't learned to love yet unconditionally. And it was kind of like, we're all a bit neurotic, but some of us have a little bit more than others, and I guess I do to a point sometimes. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm a little bit erratic, a little bit more neurotic sometimes, and then but just absolutely owning that and loving that part of myself, and just going, okay, that's cool. That makes me unique, and that makes it fun and entertaining for life. And it's something I'm always going to be working on, but it's certainly not something to get rid of because I can't, because it's kind of part of me that's just going, all right, that's there, but making the
How does that feel for you to land in that place of like having to admit to yourself that you can be neurotic?
mm, it got to that point of going, yeah, that's me, and like, cool, it's all right, and so that it's been a nice movement from there, because that was probably almost a week ago, and that's just been sitting with me, and it's been really, really beautiful, and going, yeah, I'm slightly more neurotic, and that's okay, and that's a part of myself that I'm just learning to love a bit more, and then now it's not becoming a mask or a shadow aspect of the self. It's just going, yeah, there it is. It's coming out again, and whatever it is, and it's but that's been a beautiful drop in, and you helped me kind of see that, which was great.
It could be your new demonster, neurotic Nathan.
The neurotic Nathan.
Neurotic Nathan. But it's true, right? And this is a conversation that I often have with my clients, and when we talk about demonstering and understanding these aspects of ourselves, just like asking yourself why it's here. Like, what does it need? What does that neurotic part of all of us need? Why is it here? What does it want? Like when we have a look at our childhood, a lot of it is based on that, right? Like a lot of who we are and the scripts that we have and the armors that we have can be based on when we were children, and the things that may have happened to us, or the things that we perceived happened to us. And so it's like, if this stems from when I was younger, it's like that is just the younger aspect of yourself wanting to come through, wanting acknowledgement, wanting to be heard, to be loved, to be felt. So it's like it's a simple question when these things come through, of just asking yourself, like, okay, what does this aspect of me need? Why is it that this is coming through? And not in like, as we said before, not in a detrimental way. It's like self-inquiry. It's like being inquisitive with the question, not like what's wrong with me. It's like, well, okay, what do I actually need?
Yeah, and it's, I mean, even if you listen to a lot of Jordan Peterson's, or you do his personality test, like it tests on the level of neuroticism, like it's actually a trait, and so it's in a controlled society where it deems that higher neuroticism is bad, and so but there's more ownership, like if you've been listening to us for a long time, or following us for a long time, you can see we're just working things out as they come up, as they go. It's continual game, and it's just more and more self-acceptance what it comes down to, and more self-love, and then ultimately it's more love for the world, and out you go. And so, but I mean, if the awareness isn't there, then it does become kind of more of a mask, doesn't it, really? Because you've got to put up a front or something like that, or your inability to share how you are, or how you're feeling. And that's something I'm always contending with, is informing and sharing, and so if there's a part of myself that I haven't learned to fully love or accept, well, then there will be a mask up, right? Because then there's a part of myself that I'm potentially ashamed of, or I'm trying to get others to see me in another light, because the part of myself that I don't like, well, you're not going to try and show. And so there's that vicious game, right? And then obviously the armor comes up, and it's like, okay, well, I'm always trying to work on to be a lot softer, because it's very simple for me to be very stern and direct, but my softness, I wanted to bring that out, my more feminine energied flow and more creative flow. And so if these parts of yourself you don't like, or you are unwilling to accept, then the armor will be built up, because you've got to defend those statements, and then you're just in the program of the known. And so, yeah, that's what I've been not wrestling with, but that's what I've been kind of working with the last week. And I guess, all these themes of these podcasts come from somewhere, don't they? You and I are just like, hey, what are we going to talk about this week? And we're just like, okay, we'll try this, and this, and then something will land, boom. And today I was like, hey, let's do this. And it's just like, dun, 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 dun. And it landed with you. But yet here we are. We're doing our own personal therapy session and writing in our diaries and letting everyone else hear.
Yeah, brother, it is. But it's perfect, man, because it's all about permission, right? And that's probably one of the biggest things is, and the one of the biggest things that most people struggle with is actually giving themselves permission to feel, because we're never really taught how to do it, right? We're never really taught how to acknowledge what's truly going on with us. And it's like that's still something that I struggle with within myself. It's like some days I wake up and I actually just don't even want to look people in the eyes.
Yeah.
So I'll keep my head down. And today was one of those days. And it was like, I don't even know where it came from, because life is good. Very, very hard to get life to where it is at the moment. It's a beautiful thing. But you just wake up, and some days you're having a bad day. Some days it merely just happens, right? So it's like, is that an armor, or is there still something that needs to be worked with? Why isn't that I can't actually just acknowledge that I'm having a bad day, or even just be like, hey, look, I'm just having a bad day. I don't want to talk about it. And for me, even just thinking of that, it's like it's hard for me to acknowledge that I am having a bad day when things are going really well, because one, there's no reason why I should be, and two, because when I was younger, I was never allowed to, because I had bad days all the time. And that was the perception or the judgment that other people placed on me, right? I remember really, really, I remember a moment when I was 18 and I was at a club, and one of the dads of one of the boys that I grew up with was there. And like, he was pissed, I was pissed. And we were just outside, and he just like comes up to me and he was like, "You're a really fucked up little kid." And I just remember being like, thanks. Like, what do you want me to do with that? And I probably would have only been maybe 23. So this was like a year after I had my dark night of the soul, and I was still working through my shit. Like I was still, I was boxing. And no, to be honest, I don't actually think I was drinking, because I would have been boxing and I would have just been there sober. It's probably why I'm really, really conscious and aware of it, even though it just dropped in now. But it was just like one of those moments when you're just like, man, it must have been really bad for him to when this was when I was like 5, 6, 7 years old. And that's like 15 years later. So it's like, man, he must have been through a lot,
Oh, yeah.
That young little boy, little Ryan. And then to then like let yourself just re-experience it, even in the moment now, like there's still emotion attached to the experience, because it's actually not something that I've thought of for a really, really long time. But to like allow yourself to acknowledge just simply how you're feeling, and then voicing how you're feeling, and not worrying about what other people may think or like the perception, is something that I'm still working on. And I know that I surround myself with people that would understand if I was just like, I just don't want to talk today. I'd be like, sweet as. So there's always new things to work through. There's always new learnings, new understandings, more acceptance, and it's not just about like accepting that this will always be a part of you or always something you have to work through. And this is sort of where the balance becomes, right? Because it's not about forcing yourself to be different. It's about accepting yourself for who you are, but they're not about accepting the limitations that are either self-created or projected from other people. And understanding the difference between those two things, that's really is where the work is, right? What's my true self, and what's the conditioned aspect of me? You'll never really know until you allow yourself to go into it, until you let that invisible mask come through, and until you see a crack in the aspect of yourself that you're trying to work through, right?
And it's also going to be if the bad days, when they pop up again, are you still not doing anything about it and informing the others around you that you don't feel like it, right? Because then you're allowing it to create as a pattern of then being in the victimhood of that bad day, because it's now you see it, you're like, yeah, I've had a bad day, and I surround myself with others who would understand, going, look, I actually just don't want to talk about it, and I'm just going to keep my head down today, and I feel a bit shit. It's not going to be like this forever. And that's the responsibility, I think, of you wanting to do different for yourself, is seeing it, but then feeling into it and going, yep, that's what it is. And then what are the steps? It's not about the steps of shaming yourself or trying to change your way of being. It's going, yeah, I have built the life and created the people around me that will understand if I just go, no, I'm having a shitty day, just fucking leave me be. And then because there's great courage in saying that, because that's very courageous, because now it's not about anyone else's reaction to it. It's just you just informing of just going, yeah, I'm having a shit day. Okay, simple. And just knowing that that'll land for the others around you. And if it doesn't, well, then that's okay as well.
It's just like an ignoring of an emotion, right? Because the idea of just needing to get on with it. And it reminds me of, I had a reading with I don't even know what you call her. Her name's Mix anyway.
Mix.
Mix. Mix. She's South African. And she did a reading for me, like online, where you just book in with her and she'll find some time over the next week or two whenever she feels like, a message is coming through for you, and she'll drop in and write out pages and pages of transmissions, essentially. And one of the big things that landed for me from what she was communicating was like a strong masculine figure, that whenever these moments like today happen, or there was anger or frustration or petty arguments or lying or whatever, that it was like the masculine figure that I needed when I was younger, that instead of getting angry at me, instead of telling me off, instead of blaming or shaming me for the emotions that I wasn't able to process, or the things that I wasn't able to work through, that masculine energy would just sit me down on a rock outside in like a forest, tell me to breathe, and just say, we don't do that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so as we were talking about that, there was a reminder. It was like, oh man, that's been like since the reading, there's been little aspects or things come up. I would just say that we don't do that anymore. But today, I didn't allow myself to say that.
Yep. And we've had a big weekend. It was, we launched beta, and lots of people everywhere, lots of energy and lots of moving about. And so the physical energy, I mean, I felt it today as well. I had to get on the road early, and, I didn't get to train this morning, and out and about in the world doing our things. And then it got to about 6 o'clock, and I thought, oh, we've got a podcast. I need to have a quick nap just to sharpen me up. So there's the, when you're out in the world doing big things like we're doing, we're gonna be draining the tank a bit. And when you drain the tank, you get a little bit more itchy, and you get a little bit, more tired. And so the mantras or the concepts that you've learned, sometimes because they're new, and you're just gonna just miss them a little bit. But there you go, you caught yourself going, no, I didn't say that today, and that's potentially something that may have helped me.
Yeah, perfectly. It's not that I'm bad for not doing it. It's just noticing, oh shit, I wonder why I didn't fall back to the thing that's actually been supporting me. It's like, okay, that's an interesting part of myself as well, right? Like, okay, when things are really bad, why isn't it that the tools aren't lent on more? Why is it that you just got to keep going? Michael, we don't have time to reflect all the time, do we?
Oh, exactly. And I think that's a concept all the listeners could probably reflect on as well. Because, hey, when things are real tough, why do we not lean on ourselves? It's, wow, geez, if you could answer that, you've cracked the wellness code, I guess, or the personal development code. That's it. Game over. What's the next game? I don't think, it's one of those things. It's, the why question. Why? If you stop asking why, you stop moving.
That's it. So what, I guess for you personally, brother, what's an armor that you're working through at the moment? Even like some tools that you're using to work through layers of the self.
I feel my armor of protection, I wouldn't say not letting others in, but still, like I've got my core close group, and my core close are all in on me. Like it's there, but then the maybe the layer out just past that and beyond. I think there's still a bit of keeping people slightly away, just as a self-protection mechanism, of I can do all this on my own, and I think even people in my close group, I'm like, okay, I'll just wear the weight of this, and especially can see it in relationship dynamics as well. I just wear the weight of it. It seems to be a program. I've witnessed my dad over the years, and that's definitely something that he does very well at, and it's something I've obviously been picked up and programmed through. But there's an intimacy armor there from me, that I'm constantly just cracking through, and then from that is obviously the armor of not potentially exactly speaking about how it is that I'm feeling or what it is that I want or need in that, and I just shell up into my island, and I'll just go into myself, and then I just, I'm just in, and there's no penetrating that, and that can be very confusing for people who are close to around me, because I know what's going on, but I don't share that. So yeah, I think there's definitely an intimacy armor there, that I've got to continually keep cracking. And I don't think that's something that will just, there'll be times where I'll get good, I'll get some fireworks and there'll be some good cracking, but I think it's just something I'm going to be constantly working on. And that's okay in one shape or form, but that's what relationships and friendships and all the things around. But there's a big armor there. And it certainly does the work with me as well.
Beautiful, brother.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to know and acknowledge, or even just people listening to know that there's still things that we're going through, there's still masks that we wear, that either protects us, weighs us down, keeps us alive, because it's not one or the other, right? It's all of it at the same time. Yeah. And so it's like the armor we've created is there for a reason, right? It's there to protect us, it's to keep us hidden. Also, it's there to protect us based on the experiences that we've had in the past. So they're needed, and it's not just about ripping them all off, because then you just leave yourself exposed. It's like taking it off piece by piece and understanding that there's aspects of you that no longer serve you. You have all this armor on, and it might be making you heavy, tired, lethargic, but if you strip it all off, then you're just going to feel exposed, uncovered, too vulnerable too soon. So I think to just take it off piece by piece is an important part of the process, and it can be hard for people, because it's like every time you take it off, there's going to be scars and wounds, sores underneath it that you're then going to have to tend to, right? You're going to have to lay down and lick and reopen so that there's no infection. And that can be challenging for people, because they think the work's going to be easy, but it's hard. It's challenging. It's about being honest.
Yeah, being honest, truth and love. It can come down to those two things. And I know it sounds very cliche and all that, but it is. It ultimately comes down to truth and love. truth and love for yourself, truth and love for your life, and everything that encompasses it. I think if I could snap my fingers and be, the curation of the man I'm constantly visioning, my skill set would be so much higher of my dance between my rigidity and my softness. I really want to have a more significant ability to be able to dance between the two, to be able to just go, yeah, I want to drop into some play, and I can just drop into some play. Yeah, I want to drop into my softness. Yes, I want to sit there and literally sit in front of a beautiful, partner of mine, and just fucking share so vulnerably and openly, and that just comes natural. So then there can be more deeper trust and more vulnerability between us too. But then also shape shifting back to the other way, where I need the rigidity and I need the masculine, I need the going, and I need the ability to attack and defend and go as well, which I can dance in that realm very easy. But I want to, I guess that like, if I could snap my fingers and be the vision instantly, that's where I would go. And there's the armor that's there that's I'm just constantly chipping away at, for that to be happening more and more and more. And that takes more and more of me to put myself into the softer situations of flow and dance and intimacy and all of that. And it's big. It's big for me. It's very simple for others, but it's big for me. And and that's just where I want to be opening my heart a lot more and more and more.
So if you did snap your fingers and you moved to that place where you had the ability to flex and move between what you were saying with the softness, the dance, the play, the joy, the emotion, the vulnerability, and then move into the strength that is your masculine self and the aspects that you are perfecting or have perfected. If you were that person, what advice would you give yourself as like the things that you feel intuitively need to happen for you, or to change within yourself or work on for you to get there? What do you think it is? Or even think, like, what is it? Just take a moment. You snap your fingers, you're in that place. You can feel the ability to dance between. It's like, what changed and what got you there?
Good question. It would be the ability to be able to be seen in what my mind would self-create as a weaker state of being, because there's a story that I'm feeling that's going through, that to be soft is to be weak. To be soft is to be taken advantage of. To be soft is not a man. And that's the constant stories and programs that I'm just chipping away on. And from that, I guess it would be, what advice would I give? Just keep dropping into play, keep dropping into softness. When someone asks how you feel, stop for a second and actually share how you feel. And the more that you do it, the more that you will be able to play and dance in the different realms.
Beautiful. So it's like about slowing down and really allowing yourself to feel what's going on and communicate, even if at the start it's hard or you don't know.
And feeling the fear of truth, of being vulnerable by sharing, Like I'm able to share very vulnerably, but there's a certain aspect of connecting intimacy by absolutely sharing when I'm at seems to be still some of my armor there, which each relationship cracks more away, I guess.
Totally, brother. Totally. Thank you for sharing that too. Appreciate it. One more question. This is an important one. Even if people used your vulnerability against you, even if you had to sacrifice some aspects of being a man, would you still be willing to do what you had to do to allow that flex and flow to happen?
Oh, that's a fuck yes. Yeah. Yeah, that's a fuck yes.
Right? The question we always go back to in rebirthing, are you willing? How willing are you? Or are you willing at all? If someone's willing, there's no point in even guiding them through a breathwork session, right? Because you can work with people when they're willing, but if there's not a willingness to change or let go or re-experience or move through or forgive or take blame or take ownership, then they're just simply not ready to sort of face that demon or face that beast or integrate that aspect of themselves. And it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It just means that now's not the right time for them.
No, exactly. Yeah, no, that's a fuck yes. That's a good question to ask. Because it is what I want. I want deeper softness in my next relationship or ships or however that looks. I want deeper softness in my life. I guess there's a fear of like losing my sharpness as well. Interesting. Yeah, I guess it's actually a fear of losing who I think I am, which is super interesting. But ultimately, it's not. Isn't the human complex?
Very, very complex. More questions for another day.
Oh yes, yeah. Because who even are we, really? Who even are we, Ryan? We're just stardust. We're just stardust floating on this big rock in space in an ever expanding universe, and we are, all the things we feel are basically just minimal chemical reactions that happen within our self through our nervous system that are based off our sensory organs seeing things in a way that are patterned from patterns that have been given to us. And does it all really mean anything, Ryan?
No. We're just over here stroking our own ego through conversation. Verbal masturbation right here, Mr. Michael. No, we're everything and nothing at the same time. We forever will be, right? But it's like, it's understanding that, right? And everyone's journey is going to be different, and understanding your mask and understanding the armor that we wear is like an important aspect of it, right? Because then we can choose, okay, what aspects are we going to take off? What aspects are we willing to let go of? What needs to go, and what can stay for now? Because we don't need to get rid of everything. We don't throw the baby out of the bathwater because we might actually lose aspects of ourselves. And that's when like personal development and spirituality can start to become detrimental, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm reminded of the story that you shared from your last ayahuasca journey about when you were talking about releasing your selfishness, and you said, "No, I'm going to hold into some selfishness." It's the same concept. You're not going to release everything. You need, we have everything within us. It's just what depths of the actual, self that are stuck within us that we're going to release. But
without selfishness, we're selfless.
Yes.
I worked really, really hard to be who I am. So why would I go ahead and simply lose myself? So selfishness is self-preservation.
Yeah.
spent a lifetime giving of myself to give to other people, not from a healthy place, but from a negative place. So I need to acknowledge that, no, I'm allowed to be selfish. Is it me acknowledging that I'm actually fucking important?
Putting you first, baby.
Oh, yes.
That's good. Well, brother, I think that probably ties it up. I'm feeling really. I feel like we did really well on this one, actually, considering we're in different parts of the country and we're just getting it done. I really thank you, brother. I love doing this with you.
I love too, but I love doing it with you as well, boy. It's an opportunity to share, to communicate, and well, share our perceptions with the world, right?
Exactly. So for you listening as well, thank you so much. Like, honestly, it warms our heart. And we did a little event on the weekend, and every time we put something on, or we put something out in the world, or we do something, even if one person listens or shows up or does we're just as stoked as if 100,000 people turned up. Because we're just doing this to be able to change the collective conscious out in the world, just by putting our own messaging and energy out into the world and saying our piece. And here we are in the bottom of the world, in this corner of this little screen right now. We're saying our piece, brother.
Yeah, we are, brother. So thank you for coming, Michael.
Thank you, brother. Thank you. And thank you all for listening. Tune in next week. If you do love this episode, please give us a shout out on Instagram, tag us, share it out, because we want as many people to come and join our community as possible. But other than that, we love y'all, and we'll see you next week.
See you later, everybody.
Ciao.